All right, here we have a pretty cool plugin. This is called Peel, and what this is sort of like Photoshop, but for audio or Affinity Photo or whatever image processor that you use, meaning that, in an image editor, we can isolate certain things. We can affect only certain, areas of an image. We don't have to affect the entire thing. We can layer things up, so on and so forth. Well, we can do the same exact thing here, but to our audio, using Peel, and the interface is stupid easy to use. So really anybody can use this, whether you know what's going on or not. So this is using spectral processing, and we'll just start with this clip right here, just so we can figure out the interface real quick. So whenever you start out, it's going to look like this. You can change the color up here. You can also, if your DAW supports it, it can take on the color of your track. We're in Pro Tools here, so I'm just going to choose whatever color that I want. It also takes on the name of the track. So if you have many instances of Peel, in your session, you might want to, change these, around, name them whatever you want. So we see our left, our right, and our center, and then the frequency ranges right here, and then the total spectrum of everything. So in order to draw an area to isolate, just click and drag anywhere, make it as big as you want. Get rid of it by clicking on the X. Okay. You can also resize it just by clicking and dragging, and then move it around to wherever you want. So say I want to isolate just that kick. There we go. I've isolated that kick. I can then invert it. So now I've essentially muted just the kick. I can bypass it here. Turn it back around. It's really easy to use, and you can also take that isolated part of your track, and you can send that out as the input to another track and affect just that portion of the track, which is what we're going to do here. But up top, you need to understand that not all DAWs support the output of a plugin to the input of a track. We'll show you how to do that in Studio One, for example, after this part here. So we have bass, drums, and a vocal. Let's isolate that vocal. Maybe I want to put a reverb and a delay, but just on the vocal. Let's go ahead and do that. So I just want to find the vocal. That's pretty good there. And I can invert it to make sure I've sort of, silenced it or isolated it. Okay, I could get a little more down here. Okay. Very good. So we have the vocal. So now let's go ahead, and we already have another track, but if you don't, just go ahead and create yourself another track. And then for the input of that track, come down to my plugin and make sure I choose the correct version of Peel here. And there is the output of that. So now I have the output of the plugin coming into this track right here. So I'll solo it and make sure I input enable that track. So I play back now. We hear the full thing, right? So I'm going to want to invert that or set it to the normal. So it's isolated. Pull this up a little more. Okay. So on this track here, we just have basically that vocal part. Then I can put any plugin that I want on that. And we're going to use a delay and reverb. This is spaced out from Baby Audio, but of course you can use, whatever you want. And we'll just solo just this track here. My wicked tongue will offend again. Very cool. Then bring in the other track. My wild lungs, my blind ways, my wicked tongue will offend again. All right, so we've taken a vocal out of a completely mixed track or a mixed loop or whatever you want, and we've affected just the portion that we want. So that is the basis behind Peel. Is again, it lets you peel back the layers of your audio and affect them any way you want with any effects that you want in just that portion that you want. And there's a lot of things you can do with this. So let's check it out a bit more here. All right, so a nice drum loop. Go ahead and turn on peel. So right here, I'm going to isolate sort of that kick. That's what I want right there. Okay. Let's go ahead and create another track, or in this case, we already have a track right here. So same thing, come down here to plugin, make sure I get the proper input for this instance of peel, which is the 88 RB drums. Just make sure I have that right there. So that's my input to my track. Then we'll go ahead and put a plugin on it. And I already have the plugin that I want. This is a drum replacer. Let's go ahead and choose some sample, maybe like that. And let's just solo just this second track, just the output of peel. Here we go. Switch that around. So now I'm using this isolated kick drum from this track here, and we're sending it out to this track. I'm using that to trigger a drum replacer. So we'll choose maybe that sample. Sounds kind of cool. And then bring both of those in. Of course, blend it in. There we go. We've layered that track, layered just the kick of that. Of course, I could change it to a snare if I wanted to. So now I have that kick, changing this over to a snare. So again, just ideas of things that you could do with this. Let's move on to another sample here. All right. Let's go ahead and maybe, let's see. Maybe I want to do something simple. All right. So I've got pretty much all of the snare there. That's good. Let's go ahead and create our track, because we don't have one here. Go ahead and give that, get that created. Come in here, we'll set the input. This is going to be this one right here. So there's our input. There we go. Very good. So now I have just the snare down here. Maybe I want to lower that in the mix. Pull it down. Pull it up. You could pan it around, for example. So let's pan this way over here. Again, we're isolating that snare. We're panning it around. We're lowering it in the mix or raising it in the mix. Or of course, put a plugin just on the snare. In this case, let's go back to Baby Audio, and we'll grab spaced out. Put our delay and reverb just on that snare. We're able to get in there and peel away those layers of audio, add whatever effects that we want to them, isolate just what we want, affect them however we want, remix them, rebalance them, volume, panning, position, things like that, all right here in your DAW just by using peel. Now, as I mentioned up top, not all DAWs have the capability of getting that second output from peel. And one of those is Studio One. So let's head over to Studio One and see how we could still use peel in the same manner just by duplicating our tracks. All right, so here we are in Studio One, and we actually already have peel on this. Let's go ahead and turn it on. So let's say I want to sort of isolate, somewhere in those violins. Maybe somewhere in there. And I want to put, a delay, a reverb on just that section. Well, here in Studio One, I'll just create another track here. Here in Studio One, I'm not able to set the input as that output from Peel. I can use the output of the track itself, but that's not going to do what we want, right? So what you can do instead, let me just get rid of that track. I already have Peel on here, so I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate the track completely, so everything about it, including the plugin. So then all I really need to do, let me open up, say, this version of Peel, and I can invert it. So I play them both back together. You get the full track, right? If I play just this one up here, getting just those violins down here. We're getting all of this content, right? So then I can go ahead and layer effects on either of these tracks or both of these tracks and affect, just what I want. And we'll put a reverb and maybe delay on that, which we already have pulled up here. Just go ahead and turn it on. So I stop, you can hear that delay and that reverb. And again, we've only affected just that violin part. So that's how you would do essentially the same thing that we were doing in Pro Tools and do it over here in Studio One. You just duplicate that track, have your two instances of Peel, and then make sure you invert one. So let's check out this track here. Just a piano. We'll go ahead and grab Peel, throw it on there. And maybe I want to grab just one side of this here. Maybe right there. So let's go ahead and process this. Again, we're going to use like a delay and a reverb, but of course use whatever you want. Now this process will be a little bit different. I'm going to either bypass this or remove it or disable it. Let's just disable it here. So since this track is MIDI and it's triggering an instrument, I don't want to duplicate my instruments, right? So let's just do this instead. We'll just make a new audio track right there. And I bypassed Peel, okay? So that way it's not rendered out when I do this. Just going to grab it, throw this MIDI right down into the track, and it's going to render that out into audio for me. Very cool. So now we have the audio version of that right there. So let's go ahead and enable Peel. And then I need to copy it to this track. So I'll just hold down Alt and I'll grab it right here and just drop it right on that track. Bada bing, bada boom. So now we have the same exact settings for Peel on both of these tracks. And then of course, all we need to do is invert one of them. Okay. So this is the one I want here. All right. Make sure we have this setting proper up here. Okay. So then we'll go ahead and grab whatever effect we might want to use. And again, we're going to go with spaced out, but it could be any reverb delay that you want. We'll solo just that. Sounds kind of cool. Just set this up here, just affecting that one side of the audio there. There we go. Gives it sort of a unique sound, only affecting that, only affecting that one side. But of course, we don't have to affect just the one side. We can affect, the entire spectrum. Just maybe this middle area here. Pull both of those up. You can try to get them just right, or just copy this over here, make a preset and copy it, etc., etc. All kinds of ways you could, do that. Flip it around. So then we have that spaced out of that delay and the reverb on just that middle section of the piano. So this here is the bottom end up here. We can take that down a bit. Or of course, just the opposite. Pull up the low end up here, pull down the top end here. And we are rebalancing that track. Of course, you can pan and do all that stuff as well. Let's look at another example here. So here we have 3 different loops. All right, that one and that one and this one here. Now we could play all of these at once, but it's a little too busy for what I want. I like the kick and the snare from this track here, kind of like the top end, like the hi-hats from this one here. And I like the rhythm of this one here. So let's do this here. We already have Peel on this track right here. Let's go ahead and turn it on. We're isolating that kick drum here. We're pulling it out is what we're doing, right? So that's the kick drum. I'm going to invert that. So that's pulling out that kick drum, right? And then here, let's go ahead and see what we got going on here. Turn this one on. So here we're taking out that snare hit, right? Again, just draw your shape in. I want to leave the top end in there. There we go. Pulling out a lot of that snare like that. Very cool. And for the last track, we don't need Peel on that. So now, whenever we bring all 3 of those together, we're getting that hi-hat, a little bit of the snare in there. Of course, if we bypassed Peel, we're getting that really hard snare hit, which we don't want. And up here, getting some of that snare, some of those hats, but we're pulling that kick drum out. Right, pulling that out and using the kick drum and the snare from here. There we go. So what you can do with Peel is almost limitless. Being able to peel away those layers of audio and add any effect that you want on just the section that you want, even in a fully mixed loop or a fully mixed track, there's all kinds of creative possibilities. Remove instruments, remove vocals, maybe add saturation or something to just one area. So if you want to check it out, pick it up, you can head over, check out their videos here, learn more about it. As we mentioned, not every DAW has those multiple outputs. Pro Tools does, Reaper does, Reason does, Studio One does not, but you can still use it either in an augmented way, like we did there sort of at the end, or even in the same exact way, except you're gonna duplicate your tracks and then invert one. Right? Just invert one version of Peel. And that's really all there is to it. Okay, so you can still use it in the same, essentially the same exact way. You can also find it over here at Plugin Boutique. Of course, we'll have links for that. The current price is only $49, and that is a pretty good deal for everything you can do with zplane Peel.